The Goliath unveiled. The sleek, towering form of the Goliath Supercarrier shimmered into view, its massive engines rumbling to life as it decloaked in front of the stunned Galactic Council citadel. Captain John Porter stood on the bridge, his gaze fixed on the view screen, adrenaline pumping through his veins. The time had come to reveal humanity's most closely guarded secret. Porter had known the risks when he took command of the Goliath, but he also knew that the fate of the human race rested on this bold move. The Galactic Council had grown increasingly restrictive, seeking to limit humanity's technological and military capabilities. But the Goliath, a 10-kilometer-long behemoth packed with advanced fighters and bombers, was the ace up humanity's sleeve. As the Goliath's engines roared, Porter turned to his communications officer. "Patch me through to the council chambers," he ordered, his voice terse. The officer nodded, her fingers flying across the console. Moments later, the view screen flickered, revealing the stunned faces of the Galactic Council delegates. "Captain Porter," the Ivorian spokesperson began, her tone laced with a mixture of shock and outrage. "The Galactic Council demands an explanation for this blatant violation of our treaties." Porter met the Ivorian's gaze unflinchingly. "With all due respect, Counselor, the UNSC has acted in the best interests of humanity. The Goliath was built to protect our colonies from the kind of threat we've seen time and again from the Verulian and other hostile powers." The Verulian delegate slammed his fist on the table, his compound eyes glinting with rage. "You dare to accuse us of aggression? Your ship has slaughtered our warriors and humiliated our queen." Porter's jaw tightened. "Your warriors were bombarding a civilian colony. The Goliath did what was necessary to save innocent lives." The Ivorian raised a hand, silencing the Verulian's retort. "Regardless of the circumstances, the fact remains that the UNSC has developed a weapon that threatens the balance of power in the galaxy. The Council demands that you hand over the Goliath and its technology immediately." Porter shook his head. "That's not going to happen, Counselor. The Goliath is the property of the UNSC, and we will not surrender it to the Council." He leaned forward, his voice low and determined. "The UNSC has tried to work with the Council to find a peaceful solution, but you have forced our hand. The Goliath is just the beginning. Even now, our shipyards are building more like it, a whole fleet designed to protect humanity from any threat, Council or otherwise." The Council members erupted into a cacophony of shocked murmurs and angry shouts. The Ivorian's expression hardened. "This is outright defiance, Captain. The Council will not stand for it." Porter stood, his chair scraping against the deck. "Then I guess we have nothing more to discuss. The UNSC will continue to defend its interests with or without the Council's approval." He turned and strode from the room, leaving the Council members to stew in their outrage. Back on the Goliath's bridge, Porter activated the ship-wide comm. "Attention all crew, this is the captain. As of this moment, we are on our own. The Galactic Council has threatened sanctions against our worlds, but we will not back down. The Goliath will continue to serve as humanity's shield, no matter the cost." The crew erupted into cheers and shouts of agreement, their faces alight with determination. Porter felt a surge of pride. The Goliath was more than just a ship. It was a symbol of humanity's refusal to be subjugated. And with it, they would carve out their own destiny among the stars. Council be damned. Defending New Harmony. The bridge of the Goliath was a hive of activity as the crew prepared for their next mission. Captain Porter stood at the center of it all, his eyes fixed on the main view screen as he received an encrypted transmission from a covered UNSC operative deep within Verulian space. The news was grim. "Captain, you need to see this," the operative's distorted voice crackled. "I've uncovered evidence of a secret Verulian weapons facility on a remote moon. They're developing a new type of biological weapon designed specifically to target human physiology." Porter felt a chill run down his spine. "What kind of weapon are we talking about?" "A virus, sir. Highly virulent, genetically engineered. It has the potential to wipe out entire human colonies within days of exposure." Porter clenched his fists, his jaw tightening. "Send me the coordinates of the facility. We'll take care of it." "Understood, sir. But be careful. The facility is heavily guarded, and the Verulian will stop at nothing to protect their weapon." As the transmission ended, Porter turned to his crew. "All right, people, listen up. We have a new mission, and it's a big one. The Verulian are developing a biological weapon that could wipe out our colonies. We need to destroy that facility before they can deploy it." The crew exchanged worried glances, but Porter could see the determination in their eyes. They were ready for this. "Helm, set a course for the coordinates I'm sending you. Engage stealth mode as soon as we're in range. We can't let the Verulian know we're coming." The helmsman's fingers danced across the controls as the Goliath slipped into stealth mode and began its approach to the Verulian moon. In the briefing room, Porter gathered his senior staff. "Here's what we know," he said, pulling up a holographic display of the facility. "The weapon is being developed in a secure lab at the heart of the facility. It's heavily guarded, with multiple layers of security and Verulian troops on high alert." Lieutenant Commander Reeves, the ship's tactical officer, leaned forward. "A frontal assault would be suicide. We'll need to infiltrate the facility quietly." Porter nodded. "Agreed. Major Donovan, I want you to handpick your best men for this mission. We need people who can move fast and hit hard." Major Donovan grinned. "I got just the guys in mind, sir. They'll get the job done." "Good," Porter said, turning to his chief engineer. "Lieutenant Chen, I need you to prep a couple of our stealth shuttles. We'll use them to get the team onto the surface undetected." As the meeting broke up and the officers hurried to their stations, Porter felt a heavy weight settle on his shoulders. He knew the risks, but there was no choice. The Verulian had crossed a line, and the Goliath was the only thing standing between them and the destruction of everything humanity had built. "Helm, take us in," Porter said, his voice low and determined. "It's time to show the Verulian what happens when they mess with humanity." The Goliath sliced through the void, a silent predator on the hunt. Somewhere ahead, on a distant moon, a weapon of unimaginable horror waited. But the humans were coming, and they would not be stopped. Infiltrating the Verulian facility. The Goliath's stealth shuttles slipped through the darkness, their approach vector carefully plotted to avoid detection by the Verulian sensors. On board, Major Donovan's specially selected team of Marines tensed, their enhanced exoskeletons whirring softly as they checked their weapons and gear one last time. Captain Porter stood with them, his own exoskeleton suit gleaming in the dim light of the shuttle's interior. "Remember, speed and stealth are key. We need to get in, destroy that bioweapon, and get out before the Verulian know what hit them." The Marines nodded, their faces set with determination. They knew the stakes. If this mission failed, the consequences could be devastating for humanity. As the shuttles touched down in a concealed tunnel entrance, the team sprang into action. Porter and the Marines moved swiftly, their exoskeletons providing an edge in the narrow, winding passages. But it wasn't long before they encountered their first resistance. Around a bend, a hail of plasma fire erupted, sizzling past the team's heads. Porter and his men dove for cover, returning fire with their advanced gas rifles. "Push forward," Porter shouted over the deafening din. "We need to get to those labs." The Marines surged ahead, their exoskeletons absorbing the worst of the plasma blasts as they leapfrogged from one position to the next, laying down a punishing barrage of suppressing fire. A group of Verulian soldiers, their carapace armor gleaming, rushed to meet them, but the humans were faster and stronger. Donovan and his men met the Verulian head-on, their gas rifles barking and their enhanced fists smashing through chitin and flesh. Porter was in the thick of it, his rifle flashing as he cut down enemy after enemy. A plasma bolt grazed his shoulder, but he barely felt it through the layers of armor. "Captain, we've got a problem." Donovan's voice crackled over the comm. "Automated turrets up ahead, and they've got us pinned down." Porter gritted his teeth. "Hang tight, Major. I'm on my way." Sprinting forward, Porter's exoskeleton whined with the effort as he leaped over the turret's line of fire, landing behind the nearest one. His rifle already up and firing, he reduced the deadly machine to a shower of sparks and shrapnel, then moved on to the next. With the turrets disabled, the Marines pushed deeper into the facility, encountering more resistance but overwhelmingly it. Finally, they reached the main research lab, the heavily reinforced doors no match for their breaching charges. As the doors blew inward, what they found inside made their blood run cold. Row upon row of tanks, each one holding a human floating in a viscous, clear liquid. And at the center of the room, a pulsating hive structure, its tendrils snaking out to each tank. Porter approached one of the tanks, his stomach churning at the sight of the human's empty, lifeless eyes. "My God," Donovan breathed. "What have they done?" Porter's jaw tightened. "They've turned them into drones, mindless slaves, controlled by the hive." He turned to his men, his eyes hard. "Destroy it. Destroy it all. We can't let this abomination leave this moon." As the Marines set about planting explosives, Porter's mind raced. The Verulian had crossed a line, violating the very essence of what it meant to be human. And he vowed that they would pay for this atrocity. Humanity would make sure of it. The hive's last stand. The horror of the Verulian's plan hit Porter like a punch to the gut. This virus didn't just kill. It enslaved, stripping away free will, and turning humans into mindless puppets. His jaw clenched as he turned to his team. "We can't let this abomination leave this moon. Plant charges on every tank, every server, every scrap of this vile research. We burn it all." The Marines moved with grim purpose, attaching explosives to key points throughout the lab. But as they worked, a cacophony of chitin on metal announced the arrival of Verulian soldiers. The bugs poured into the room, plasma rifles spitting deadly fire. Porter and his men dove for cover, returning fire with their gas rifles. The air filled with the sizzle of plasma and the crack of hypersonic slugs. Porter popped up to squeeze off shots, his exoskeleton whining as he moved. A plasma bolt seared past his helmet, close enough to scorch the paint. They were outnumbered and outgunned. The Verulian kept coming, heedless of their losses, driven by the fanatical devotion of the hive mind. Porter saw a Marine go down, his armor smoking from a dozen plasma hits. Another fell, swarmed by a tide of chitin and blades. Porter gritted his teeth, firing until his rifle ran dry. He slammed in a new magazine, but he knew it was only a matter of time. They were being overwhelmed. He keyed his comm, shouting over the din of battle. "Goliath, this is Porter. We need extraction now." A voice crackled back, barely audible through the static. "Captain, the Verulian have launched fighters. We're engaging, but we can't get to you yet. You'll have to." The transmission cut off in a burst of interference. Porter cursed, ducking as another plasma bolt sizzled overhead. The Verulian were pressing in, forming a wall of chitin and plasma. The Marines were being pushed back, forced into a tighter and tighter circle. This was it, Porter thought. This was how it ended. And then the world shook. A massive explosion rocked the facility, throwing Porter and the Verulian alike to the floor. For a moment, there was silence. The comm crackled to life again. "Captain, the stealth fighters have broken through. They're hitting the Verulian defenses hard. You've got a window, but it won't last long." Porter was on his feet in an instant. "You heard the man." He roared to his Marines. "We are leaving. Fighting retreat. Now." The Marines obeyed, laying down a blistering barrage of fire as they backed towards the exit. The Verulian, disoriented by the explosion, were slow to respond. Porter and his men made it to the tunnels, sealing the blast doors behind them. But they weren't safe yet. As they raced through the winding passages, the sound of pursuit echoed behind them. The Verulian were relentless, driven by their thirst for vengeance and the unwavering command of the hive. Porter gritted his teeth, his muscles straining as he pushed his exoskeleton to its limits. They had to make it back to the shuttles, back to the Goliath. Failure was not an option, not when the fate of humanity hung in the balance. The tunnel seemed to stretch on endlessly, but finally, the dim light of the exit came into view. Porter spared a glance over his shoulder, his heart sinking as he saw the Verulian closing in. They were running out of time. "Keep moving," he shouted, his voice hoarse. "We're almost there." The Marines surged forward, their exoskeletons whining with effort. The shuttles were in sight, their engines already primed for a hasty extraction. Porter felt a surge of relief. They were going to make it. But as they reached the shuttles, a deafening roar echoed through the tunnel. The Verulian had caught up, their plasma rifles unleashing a withering barrage of fire. Porter and his men dove for cover, returning fire with everything they had. The battle rage, a desperate, savage clash between the tenacious human Marines and the relentless Verulian soldiers. But the humans were fighting for more than just their lives. They were fighting for the very future of their species. And as the Goliath's fighters finally broke through the Verulian defenses, allowing the shuttles to make their escape, Porter knew that this was just the beginning. The Verulian had pushed humanity too far, and now they would face the full wrath of a species that refused to be enslaved. Humanity's ultimatum. The Goliath's shuttles streaked away from the Verulian moon, their occupants battered and bruised but alive. Porter slumped in his seat, adrenaline slowly ebbing from his system as the gravity of what they had witnessed sank in. The horrors of the Verulian's bioweapon facility had shaken the entire team to their core. Rows of humans, their minds reduced to empty vessels, under the control of the pulsating hive structure. It was a violation of the very essence of what it meant to be human. Porter clenched his fists, his jaw tightening. The Verulian had gone too far this time. This wasn't just a weapon, it was an abomination, and humanity would make sure they paid for it. As the shuttles docked with the Goliath, Porter gathered his senior staff in the briefing room, his expression grim. "What we found on that moon," he began, his voice low. "It's beyond anything we could have imagined. The Verulian have created a weapon that doesn't just kill, it enslaves. They found a way to strip away a person's free will, turning them into mindless drones under the control of a hive mind." The officers exchanged horrified looks, the gravity of the situation sinking in. "We destroyed the facility, but I have no doubt the Verulian will regroup and try again. This bioweapon is too valuable to them, and they'll stop at nothing to perfect it." Porter's gaze swept across the room, meeting the eyes of each of his officers. "Gentlemen, the time has come for us to draw a line in the sand. The Verulian have proven that they are willing to commit atrocities in the name of their twisted ambitions, and we can no longer afford to stand by and let them." He paused, taking a deep breath. "I'm putting forth a proposal to the UNSC. It's time to accelerate our shipbuilding program. We need a fleet of Goliath-class vessels, capable of defending our colonies and striking back against the Verulian threat. No more half measures, no more compromises. Humanity's survival is at stake, and we will do whatever it takes to ensure our freedom." The officers nodded, their eyes alight with a fierce determination. "Captain, you can count on our support," Donovan said, his voice firm. "We're with you all the way." Porter allowed himself a grim smile. "Good, because we're about to take the fight to the Verulian in a way they've never seen before." He turned to the communications officer. "Patch me through to UNSC High Command. It's time we delivered our ultimatum to the Galactic Council." As the view screen flickered to life, revealing the stern faces of the UNSC's top brass, Porter straightened his shoulders, knowing that the fate of humanity now rested on his shoulders. "Gentlemen, the time has come to show the Galactic Council that we will no longer be pushed around. The Verulian have crossed a line, and we are going to respond in kind. We are initiating a massive shipbuilding program, one that will give us the firepower to defend our colonies and strike back against our enemies." He paused, his gaze unwavering. "And to the Galactic Council, I have this message. Stay out of our way, or be prepared to face the full might of the USC. Humanity will not be enslaved, not by the Verulian or anyone else. This is our ultimatum. Accept it, or prepare for war." The screen went dark, leaving Porter alone with his thoughts. He knew the risks, the potentially cataclysmic consequences of his actions, but he also knew that there was no other choice. Humanity's freedom hung in the balance, and the Goliath and its growing fleet of sister ships would be the shield that protected it, no matter the cost. Mobilizing the fleet. The Goliath's arrival at Earth was met with a mix of celebration and trepidation. The ship had saved countless lives on New Harmony, but its very existence had now placed humanity on a collision course with the Galactic Council. As Captain Porter disembarked, he was immediately ushered into a meeting with UNSC High Command, where he delivered the ultimatum he had issued to the Council. The admirals listened in stunned silence, their expressions a mix of concern and grim determination. "You're certain the Verulian have developed a bioweapon capable of enslaving our people?" one admiral asked, his brow furrowed. Porter nodded solemnly. "Yes, sir. The evidence we gathered on that moon facility leaves no doubt. They found a way to strip away free will, turning humans into mindless drones under the control of a hive mind." The admirals exchanged uneasy glances, the gravity of the situation weighing heavily on them. "And you believe the only way to counter this threat is to build a fleet of Goliath-class ships?" another admiral asked. "Yes, sir," Porter replied, his voice unwavering. "The Goliath has proven its worth, and with an entire fleet at our disposal, we can not only defend our colonies, but take the fight to the Verulian and destroy their bioweapon program before it's too late." The admirals fell silent, clearly weighing the enormous risks and implications of such a bold move. But after a tense moment, the senior admiral nodded. "Very well, Captain. You have our authorization to proceed with the shipbuilding program. We'll divert all available resources to this effort." Porter allowed himself a small, grim smile. "Thank you, sir. I can assure you, the Verulian won't know what hit them." With the support of UNSC High Command secured, Porter wasted no time in overseeing the mobilization of the fleet. Shipyards across human-controlled space were pressed into service, churning out Goliath-class vessels at a breakneck pace. The Goliath itself underwent a series of upgrades, its already formidable arsenal enhanced with the latest in experimental weapons and defense systems. Porter knew that they would need every advantage they could get, for the coming conflict with the Verulian would be a fight for the very survival of humanity. As the new ships rolled off the assembly lines, Porter gathered his captains and senior officers, his eyes burning with a fierce determination. "Gentlemen, the time has come to show the Verulian and the Galactic Council the true might of humanity. These ships are not just vessels of war. They are symbols of our refusal to be enslaved, our unwavering commitment to freedom." He paused, letting his words sink in. "We will strike at the heart of the Verulian Empire, destroying their bioweapon facilities and crippling their ability to threaten our colonies. And we will do so with a level of violence and ruthlessness that will shake the very foundations of the Galactic Council." The officers erupted into cheers and shouts of agreement, their faces alight with a fervent determination. Porter raised a hand, silencing them. "But make no mistake, gentlemen, this will not be an easy fight. The Verulian will throw everything they have at us, and we must be prepared to face the full fury of their wrath." He fixed each of them with a steely gaze. "However, I have no doubt that we will emerge victorious, for we fight not just for our own survival, but for the future of our species, a future where humanity will stand tall, unshackled and unafraid, in the face of any challenge the galaxy may throw at us." The officers erupted into thunderous applause, their spirits lifted by Porter's unwavering confidence and resolve. With the fleet mobilized and the stage set for a decisive confrontation, humanity was poised to take its rightful place among the stars, no longer content to be mere pawns in the games of the Galactic Council. Mobilizing the fleet, The Goliath's arrival at Earth was met with a mix of celebration and trepidation. The ship had saved countless lives on New Harmony, but its very existence had now placed humanity on a collision course with the Galactic Council. As Captain Porter disembarked, he was immediately ushered into a meeting with UNSC High Command, where he delivered the ultimatum he had issued to the Council. The admirals listened in stunned silence, their expressions a mix of concern and grim determination. "You're certain the Verulian have developed a bioweapon capable of enslaving our people?" one admiral asked, his brow furrowed. Porter nodded solemnly. "Yes, sir. The evidence we gathered on that moon facility leaves no doubt. They've found a way to strip away free will, turning humans into mindless drones under the control of a hive mind." The admirals exchanged uneasy glances, the gravity of the situation weighing heavily on them. "And you believe the only way to counter this threat is to build a fleet of Goliath-class ships?" another admiral asked. "Yes, sir," Porter replied, his voice unwavering. "The Goliath has proven its worth, and with an entire fleet at our disposal, we can not only defend our colonies, but take the fight to the Verulian and destroy their bioweapon program before it's too late." The admirals fell silent, clearly weighing the enormous risks and implications of such a bold move. But after a tense moment, the senior admiral nodded. "Very well, Captain. You have our authorization to proceed with the shipbuilding program. We'll divert all available resources to this effort." Porter allowed himself a small, grim smile. "Thank you, sir. I can assure you, the Verulian won't know what hit them." With the support of UNSC High Command secured, Porter wasted no time in overseeing the mobilization of the fleet. Shipyards across human-controlled space were pressed into service, churning out Goliath-class vessels at a breakneck pace. The Goliath itself underwent a series of upgrades, its already formidable arsenal enhanced with the latest in experimental weapons and defense systems. Porter knew that they would need every advantage they could get, for the coming conflict with the Verulian would be a fight for the very survival of humanity. As the new ships rolled off the assembly lines, Porter gathered his captains and senior officers, his eyes burning with a fierce determination. "Gentlemen, the time has come to show the Verulian and the Galactic Council the true might of humanity. These ships are not just vessels of war. They are symbols of our refusal to be enslaved, our unwavering commitment to freedom." He paused, letting his words sink in. "We will strike at the heart of the Verulian Empire, destroying their bioweapon facilities and crippling their ability to threaten our colonies. And we will do so with a level of violence and ruthlessness that will shake the very foundations of the Galactic Council." The officers erupted into cheers and shouts of agreement, their faces alight with a fervent determination. Porter raised a hand, silencing them. "But make no mistake, gentlemen, this will not be an easy fight. The Verulian will throw everything they have at us, and we must be prepared to face the full fury of their wrath." He fixed each of them with a steely gaze. "However, I have no doubt that we will emerge victorious, for we fight not just for our own survival, but for the future of our species, a future where humanity will stand tall, unshackled and unafraid, in the face of any challenge the galaxy may throw at us." The officers erupted into thunderous applause, their spirits lifted by Porter's unwavering confidence and resolve. With the fleet mobilized and the stage set for a decisive confrontation, humanity was poised to take its rightful place among the stars, no longer content to be mere pawns in the games of the Galactic Council. The wrath of humanity. The Goliath and its growing fleet of Goliath-class vessels surged through the void, a formidable armada driven by a singular purpose: the destruction of the Verulian bioweapon program and the liberation of humanity from the shackles of the Galactic Council. At the helm of the flagship, Captain Porter stood resolute, his gaze fixed on the tactical display as his officers relayed the latest intelligence. The Verulian had mobilized their entire fleet, determined to defend their precious bioweapon at all costs. "Sir, we're detecting a massive Verulian force gathering near the primary bioweapon facility," the sensor officer reported, her voice tense. They've committed the bulk of their fleet to this defense. Porter's jaw tightened. Good. That's exactly where we want them. He turned to the communications officer. Patch me through to the fleet. The officer nodded, her fingers dancing across the console. Moments later, Porter's voice echoed through the ships of the human armada. Attention all vessels, this is Captain Porter. The time has come to show the Verulian and the Galactic Council the true might of humanity. Our mission is clear. We will strike at the heart of the Verulian Empire, destroying their bioweapon facility and crippling their ability to threaten our colonies. He paused, letting his words sink in. I know the risks, the sacrifices we may be called upon to make, but I also know that we fight not just for ourselves, but for the future of our species, a future where humanity stands tall, unshackled and unafraid, in the face of any challenge the galaxy may throw at us. The fleet erupted into a chorus of cheers and battle cries, the crews fueled by a fervent determination to protect their home and their freedom. All ships, prepare for jump to FTL, Porter ordered, his voice calm and resolute. We leave no one behind, and we show no mercy for humanity. The fleet leaped into hyperspace, the swirling vortex of energy, a prelude to the devastation that was about to be unleashed upon the unsuspecting Verulian. As the human ships emerged from the FTL jump, the Verulian fleet came into view, a massive armada bristling with firepower. But the humans were undaunted, their weapons already blazing. The battle that ensued was a savage, unrelenting clash of steel and plasma, with the Goliath and its sister ships using their superior firepower and advanced tactics to carve a path through the Verulian defenses. Porter watched the carnage unfold, his expression grim but determined. All fighters, break formation and engage the Verulian ships, he ordered. Bombers, target their command vessels and weapons platforms. We need to cripple their ability to coordinate this defense. The human pilots responded with lethal efficiency, their training and experience giving them a decisive edge over their Verulian counterparts. One by one, the enemy ships fell, their hulls crumbling under the weight of the human onslaught. But the Verulian were not about to surrender their precious bioweapon without a fight. As the human fleet pressed deeper into their territory, they unleashed a barrage of devastating attacks, their desperation fueling their ferocity. The Goliath shuddered under the impact of enemy fire, but Porter refused to be deterred. All hands, brace for impact, he shouted, his voice cutting through the chaos. We're going in, full speed ahead. The human fleet surged forward, their weapons blazing, as they closed in on the bioweapon facility. The Verulian fought with a fanatical intensity, but they were no match for the sheer determination and firepower of the humans. In the end, the facility was reduced to a smoldering ruin, the Verulians' twisted experiment destroyed forever. As the Goliath's crew cheered their victory, Porter allowed himself a small, grim smile. This is just the beginning, he murmured, his eyes fixed on the receding Verulian ships. Humanity has had enough of being pushed around. Now, we take the fight to them. With the Verulian bioweapon program neutralized, the human fleet turned its sights towards the Galactic Council, determined to show them the true strength and resolve of a species that would no longer be constrained or subjugated. The future of humanity was now in their hands, and they would fight to the bitter end to secure their freedom.